Welcome everybody to another episode of Quack and Code, where we do Quack and Code together around DuckDB and today MotherDuck and some AI features. I have a really great guest today with me, Till, which is also a MotherDucker, and yes, that's how we call ourselves, MotherDucker. And so he's a colleague of mine working on the AI features that has been shipped into MotherDuck and also have quite a lot of knowledge around it. We'll talk about his background. But the goal today is really to see how those AI features is helping us or not writing better or worse SQL. And also kind of like, I would say, what kind of features can we embed it directly into the product? So, aside from the classic chat where we discuss and ask, fix my query, generate my query, what else can we do today with AI directly within the products? We have some example to show you with MotherDuck. So it's going to discuss with things that's already out there. And maybe he's going to tease us with some new features. But to that being said, Till, welcome to the episode.
Hey Mehdi, hi. Thanks for having me.
So you're joining from Amsterdam, right?
Right. As you can see outside, usually I can see
It's
the
already
green there. Now I only see
exactly.
black.
It's already dark. Please let us know. Let us know where you're joining from. If it's night already for you, or if you're having breakfast or having lunch while watching us. I'd be curious. And so yeah, you're actually we saw you're much more branded MotherDuck than me, by the way, right? But he's at the office of Amsterdam. So MotherDuck has an office in Amsterdam. How many people are in Amsterdam right now?
I think we are 8.
Okay, what 8 people?
8 or 9. So
Yeah.
we are actually sitting in a research institute. In the same hallway where DuckDB originated from.
Yeah.
So it's a very special place to be and to work out of.
Yeah, no, I guess. And you see, so tell me a bit about your background, because you've been working as a PhD at CWI, so the Research Institute, right? But how did you come into data in the first place?
Yeah, so technically, I've been a master student at the CWI here, and that was actually before DuckDB times. And I think, I kind of moved on into data science and data engineering in the industry. And at some point I saw, there's this thing called DuckDB. And it was released by my thesis advisor, so maybe I should have a look. So I think I tried the first version of DuckDB I actually tried out was something like 0.2. So it's like quite some years
That's
ago.
like really adapter. I'm curious, like, what's the earliest adapter that we have in the room here? When did you start using DuckDB? I've started on 0.7, so yeah, you're much more an OG than me. Well, so you started over there and work on a topic, link it to the project?
Yeah, so I mean, at that time I was working at a as a data engineering, data science consultant. So was mostly working with Spark clusters, and I think it was
on the dark side.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, like it's this thing, or you have to debug like the Spark workloads and so on. And I don't know for what reason, but I just tried out to read the CSV file with DuckDB, and it was so fast that I thought something went wrong.
That's a really good point. I think when things start to be fast, just in general with technology, like our first, reaction is that there is something wrong going on, right? and it happens to me several times. But I think the side effect is that once you get used to that speed, it's really hard to go to something slower, because it's kind of like, your phone. You have a brand new phone, is super fast, and then 2 years later or 1 year later, you feel like it is super slow. But it's also your mind, which, like, is getting used to the speed and is expecting more, right? Um, so I can totally relate it to that. So you're working as a consultant on Spark Cluster, um, and how did you get into machine learning and more, AI stuff?
Yeah, I think it was the researchy part of it. I really like like to experiment, to put on like a bit of a scientific or researchy hat, and so data science is kind of a natural fit. Also, I had an ambition or this idea to work on PhD, which I also ended up doing after this like industry position. As like at the beginning, I'm actually still doing my PhD, so I haven't finished it yet. But I always had one foot in industry, one a little bit in research. From then on, one of the research projects was actually developing this the CSV sniffer in DuckDB. I think that was the first thing I worked on when I started my PhD. And
Which has a big place in DuckDB ecosystem, right? I think it's how people read CSV is still something important in terms of workflow. I would like to have a world where we don't have CSV, but the reality is otherwise. Let us know in the comment if you prefer loading from CSV or Parquet, and if you'll make friends or enemy with me. But anyway, it's really powerful. It was really powerful, I think, from the start. There was still much work that's been done after, right? But
yeah.
yeah.
I think of my initial code. There's not much left anymore, but the general idea survived.
And so you've contributed to DuckDB to research and implementation, and work as a consultant. So 1 feet in the industry, 1 feet in research, and then now you've been at MotherDuck for a year and a half. No,
Yeah,
that's something
a
like
good
that.
year, 1 year,
Yeah,
3 months now.
1 year and
I
3
guess.
months. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
September last year. Yeah, so I'm correct.
And
And what are you working on? Like,
yeah,
I don't see
so
you doing anything.
that's because you're not here.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, of
but
course, of course.
I guess what led me to MotherDuck in the first place was this being in both worlds in some way, doing research. On the other hand, doing research basically at the intersection of database management and machine learning, and yeah, so working on AI at MotherDuck felt like the perfect, bringing those two topics very well together. And I think the very first thing I started working on was text to SQL integrations.
Yeah. And I want to give just, I think it's important to mention, so MotherDuck did release also a paper and a research paper, but there is also this blog that you can check out, which is a really interesting blog that Steph and Till wrote about Sigma, which is really a data nerd conference, focused on research and database system. And so there is a lot of insight over there if you're really curious about the different trends in database and a bit going into down the line. I would definitely recommend to read that blog. And I was actually looking at our paper. I'll put the link right after. But it is true that to that that MotherDuck is also a place where there is quite some research, involved, because no one has put like an embedded database in the cloud, right? I mean, as far as I know, or maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I was asking you, Till.
Oh, you were asking me. I was looking at the
I
chat,
was
hoping
no
someone else
worries,
would
no
answer
worries.
for me.
I was wondering if you know actually if there is another cloud provider that's been put an embedded database in the cloud. I guess there is some service from SQLite, but that's not an analytical database. So
Yeah, I'm really not the right person to ask. I'm afraid I would probably not give an adequate answer to that question.
But so just to say that, yeah, so that's involves some research and some possibilities. So what is the first product? The first thing you focus when you worked at MotherDuck? Can we maybe show it quickly?
Sure. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, if you're ready, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We have 89 people live. You're all really calm.
Oh.
Please, if you have already any question, go ahead, say hi. And there. All right.
Yeah, also, if you have questions in between, feel free to just drop them in the chat. We can pick them up as we go. Okay, so I suppose you're seeing our documentation page, right? So
yeah.
Maybe let's start from here. So when you go to our website, you go to Docs, you see our SQL reference, and there's one section here, AI, and that leads you to some things that we've worked on. And these SQL assistant functions are the ones that I mentioned that I started working on in the very beginning. So prompt SQL is this very basic thing. I had a blog post about that before I joined MotherDuck. I called it, what was it, Quack prompt or something?
Yeah, I remember that.
It was just after GPT, I think 3.5 or so got released, or 3.0 in the very beginning, like the first models that had instruction fine-tuning or LHF, so they could actually have an understanding of what a conversation is, and when someone asks me a question, I should give an answer and so on. And I was doing research about foreign key detection. So if you have tables in a database and no primary foreign key relation specified, can we maybe guess which would be the right relations between them? And I guess part of this experiment, I thought, okay, I use a language model. Maybe they can help me to figure out what are the relations. And I was really surprised how good they were in just understanding SQL. And I kind of triggered the idea we can just generate SQL from questions and so on. And of course, a lot of people had that idea at the time, and that was one of the implementations. And it now we expose it in.
Wait, your screen share seems frozen. Can you try to screen again?
Sure. Is it better now? Can you see it?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
I was in the wrong tab actually.
Yeah, that explains.
So let's take this function here and maybe ask a question against our data. So this is the MotherDuck web UI. So you have actually a fully functional database now running in the browser, and it talks with another database, that DuckDB database that is in the cloud, and they're kind of coordinating who is going to execute the queries. But that's probably a topic for another Quack and Code session, right, Mehdi?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, just to give a wrap up on people that hasn't seen it's the first time on the MotherDuck UI. So you have a SQL UI editor, right? The query that you saw into the docs that Till showed just before, if you can go back to those,
Sure.
those can be used in any DuckDB client, right? You don't need to use MotherDuck UI to leverage those features. All of them, I believe. Correct me if I'm saying some silly thing, Till. So you can use the DuckDB CLI. You can use, a Python client, as long as you have a MotherDuck account, a MotherDuck token, you authenticate, and then you can leverage those functions.
Indeed. So, and we have this sample database here, and there are a couple of different tables in here. One of those.
Wrong tab.
Thanks.
Yeah.
One of those is the table of Hacker News posts.
Yeah.
So we can experiment with the prompt SQL function on this thing and say maybe something like show me how many Hacker News posts were there in March 2022. So because I have
you're not on the simple database.
Okay, so and now it will give me a query, and I can copy paste and execute. See what happens.
So that's one to generate the query, and you can also just use directly.
Exactly, that's the kind of manual way to do it. There's also a function called prompt query, and that will generate a query and also execute it directly. And this will actually only work for analytical queries, only select statements. The prompt SQL function will also allow you to generate DML, DDL statements. So we don't execute those automatically. And I can talk a little bit about what happens in the background.
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Yes, please.
So we take this string and we actually enrich, we take this string and catalog information. So what kind of tables are here, and what are the column names in those tables, and so on and so forth. And combine them with a longer prompt that it contains a lot of information about DuckDB SQL syntax, and we will send this to a large language model. I think right now it's GPT-4o, and it will generate a SQL query for us, and we will actually validate the SQL query in the client. So we will try to parse and bind it, not really executing it, but just to make sure that it's syntactically correct. If it's not correct, we have a feedback loop that actually corrects it and tries to fix the error. So you always get a query that is actually syntactically correct. It's a small helper to get started. Sometimes when I start working with a new database, and I haven't really taken the time to explore the schemas yet and so on, and I would just like to get a simple query to get started. That's a super useful tool. I really like to use it for
and I think that's one thing which is missing when you use like just a separate chat with to debug your SQL, is that it's like context and schema, right? So this is actually something really important, and plus the DuckDB SQL syntax is a bit different. I mean, I see more that there is a lot of like things that DuckDB has done to innovate into the SQL area that makes it easier. More readable to write SQL and sometimes faster. So you also need to leverage that syntax. And so that's like basically, is that the first features you were shipped? I feel like you shipped FixIt before.
FixIt came just after, but it was maybe the feature that more people actually know about and more people use in their day-to-day work. So I can show quickly.
Yeah, let's talk about FixIt.
So let's say I've written this query by hand and I've missed this bracket here, like by writing it, and we get a parser error. And yeah, that's the moment where FixIt kicks in. So that's the automatic fixing suggestion here, and it's working in a very similar way to the prompt SQL function. It's also actually, if you go back here to the documentation, there's this prompt fix line function, and that's actually what the UI is using. But 99.9% of users use it in the integrated way in the UI. It's also aware of schemas, so it can also fix these table column name related errors, and it knows also a fair bit about DuckDB SQL syntax. And one thing that we put a lot of attention to or focused on during the implementation was to keep the response time low. So there are actually also can show that here as well. This is prompt fix up function, and that is doing what usually the query fixing solutions are doing. They're generating a full. They are regenerating the entire query, and that has two disadvantages. First, it is slow, because when your query is large, the model has to produce all the tokens that your query consists of, and that is basically the function of the, a linear function of the length of your query.
Yeah.
And sorry. So what we do and the second thing is it also starts to introduce errors, starts fixing things that we don't really want to fix. So excuse me for a second.
Yeah, so basically here it's the feedback loop is much faster because we are only working on specific lines, and you see, because the feedback loop is faster, even if there is 2 error, it's really like click, run the error, it's suggesting again, click, accept, and run. So I feel like the feedback loop was really great, and I still use it. You just use it. Maybe you can simulate it if you quickly do 2 error in the line. So it's also not just syntax; it's also based on the we see first, and then the second, the schema, and boom. So that took less than a second, and if we fix 2 issues in the query. And so that's really interesting and important to mention that, this strategy helps a much faster feedback loop when fixing your SQL query than trying to fix everything at the same time. And the last thing I want to do is call out Databricks, which implemented basically a clone of that features, which is great. So that means you've been doing something right, Till. Because we haven't seen that such a feature directly implemented in other SQL editor. If you've seen it before FixIt was released, when did we release FixIt? Was in September? No, I think it was.
It was January. January this year.
Yeah, January this year. So if you've seen some similar, fixing inference style, please let us know. And someone asked, does Databricks has the ability to write prompts to a query a database? Sadly, it's not a Databricks talk, so I have to be honest, I don't know. I guess it is, but I think I just wanted to highlight that this feature for me is a really good example. As I was saying in the introduction, it's not just having a chat, right? Because this is the first AI features we put into MotherDuck, right? I mean, aside from the prompt reference. And there is there is no chat involved, right? It's just fixing within the UI with clear feedback loop.
Yeah. I guess one of the philosophies behind that is also not to clutter the product with maybe not that useful AI tools or AI helpers. We really want to, if we develop something, we want it to be there to stay and not just to follow a trend. Maybe on a related note is exposing this functionality on the SQL layer and not only in the UI. That's also something we intentionally chose to do because we have this app developers basically that develop data applications based on MotherDuck, and that actually allows them to expose the same functionality in a UI in the exact way they want to do it.
And so let's can you explain a bit exactly what's going behind the scene and a bit about the pricing? Do we run our own model? What kind of model? And maybe branch out with also what we did with the DuckDB SQL model. I think that would be an interesting topic to talk.
So in terms of pricing, there's a free trial that let me check again, double check.
You're not under exactly
our pricing page. So you see in the free trial, 30-day free trial, there are actually unlimited amount of SQL Assistant calls, and in free tier there are 200 requests per day. They include the FixIt, but it's a threshold that normal users don't reach. You have to break a lot of
unless you're really bad at SQL. Then I'm wondering what are you doing here? It's like I think it's a bit the sense where we have those tools that help us, and sometimes I feel I'm not using my brain enough. Like stop, go learn the foundation, no matter the topic, right? It's not just about SQL.
Yeah, so we actually also have a completely free version of that. So is there a way to share also just my entire screen by any chance?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
you can. You just have to stop sharing and then share it again.
Okay. Let's see.
So we release an open model, a small model where you can do that for free, and there is a Hugging Face space where you can play with those things.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess you can see it now, right? That's the Hugging Face space. Here we released that sometime this year. I guess it was in March or some 10 months ago.
Yeah.
See. And
time is flying, huh?
Yeah. What we did here, we generated a huge data set of synthetic DuckDB SQL queries, which we also released here. So you can see things like what are the tables available in the current database? Okay, you should execute pragma show tables and so on and so forth. So our intention was to really cover a broad range of DuckDB functions, because there are over 500 functions, 280 different keywords, 30 different data types, and while some of them intersect with like Postgres or SQLite SQL, others deviate from that. So that's something that, at least at that time, large language models were not really good at. There was not a lot of DuckDB code in the training data. It has gotten better recently. So we have this other space here where we actually keep track of performance of different open models on DuckDB text to SQL. You can see currently leading is the OpenAI 01 model, Claude 3.5.
Okay.
So we also evaluate different prompts here. And yeah, our fine-tuned model is actually also on the list. It used to be on number 1 on the list by the at the time when we trained it, and by now it has fallen here to low ranks behind more recent model releases.
Yeah.
So we are working actually on a second iteration of that model, because the ability to execute or to use that model locally is super interesting for people who don't want to expose the schemas or the data to OpenAI or Anthropic. And well, so if you're interested in this, like general, like the leaderboard and so on, you can go to this Hugging Face based DuckDB and SQL hub. I will paste it into the chat later and explore it. Thanks. And you can actually also, you can even run your own benchmarks. So if you have a specific query you are using for DuckDB, or here you can see the query that we are using actually. So this is quite useful to copy paste into your system prompt, for example, if you want to generate DuckDB specific SQL. Well, and yeah, we use this space sometimes to evaluate new models that come out and see how they are doing. And yeah, back to this model that we trained is also available on Hugging Face, but also on Ollama. So Ollama makes it really easy to run the model locally. So I've set up an Ollama server.
Can you zoom on the terminal?
So I just have to.
You just do command plus.
Command plus.
More is coming.
Even more.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. So can everyone see it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry, I have a bit of a cough. It's not that warm here in Amsterdam. So let's say my favorite. Read the CSV file from test.csv. But here's my query.
Oh,
and it's even using the nice DuckDB syntax. That
So it's not using just for people that don't know. It's not specifying the read CSV auto function. It's just you just provide the path, and based on the path, there is function inference based on the file type, which is CSV. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, so that's you can run it locally. It's a small model. Can you see the size? Actually, I think the comment
it's 7 billion.
Yeah, in terms of like size storage that it takes,
around. I think if it's quantized to 4-bit, it's 2.5 gigabyte roughly.
Okay. Yeah.
So large, like small. Even small language models are large. Unfortunately,
that is very true. So yeah, so to recap so far, what we covered, we talked the prompt. Did we talk about the prompt function? I don't think we talked about the prompt function.
No,
we
not
talked
yet.
About generating a query, a SQL query with a pure prompt, or directly asking for insight, and then the query is ran basically for you. I think myself also included. I like actually to ask me to generate the query so that I can inspect it and be sure that there's not something fishy. Then we talked about FixIt, which is the one-line fixer within the MotherDuck UI. And then we talked about the DuckDB SQL, DuckDB SQL, which is on Hugging Face that you can look, and that you can also run with Ollama. So that's already a lot. But what else have you been working on? So there's quite a lot at the end, right?
Yeah, of course. It's all about putting more language models into the database, right? No, but in ideally, ideally in useful ways. So like one thing that was happening in, I guess around mid of this year, was OpenAI released a new model called GPT-4o Mini. So, and we were thinking about this already before that. Actually, we have a lot of textual columns in the database. So,
yeah.
And how cool would it be if we could just hook our database up to ChatGPT and just run this text content through the model and get some useful response back. For example, for data extraction or for sentiment classification, or even for text generation. Here's my user, it has this and this properties, like write some nice message for that user. And it seemed a bit like cost-wise, it seemed just like a very, very stupid idea, because at the time GPT-4o, I think it was 15 US dollar or 30 US dollar for a million tokens, and you really quickly get to 1 million tokens when you think about it in terms of text. That's like 4 million characters. But then GPT-4 Mini came out, like with a 30x price cut to GPT-4o. And
and they've been like all the provider and also Cloud have been
exactly.
Like
Of
challenging
course,
the pricing and putting it down.
Yeah, I'm not talking. I'm saying OpenAI, but of course, there's also Gemini Flash, for example. Now there's this Haiku model from Claude, and of course, there are also a lot of open models like Llama 7B or 70B, or Quen models. Really good models as well. And there are providers that offer OpenAI compatible endpoints of those kind of models. So in the end, when you compare the prices right now of a small model like a Llama 3B to the prices of GPT 3.0 when it came out, which is only 4 years ago, and the Llama 3B is actually has a very similar performance to this GPT 3.0 that came out a few years ago. And the price difference is 1000x. So inference is 1000 times cheaper nowadays than it used to be a few years ago. So
what that's like, coming back to your specific use case, what does it open? So what kind of idea do you have with that?
Yeah, so all kinds of things. I think I myself haven't really explored all the possibilities that this brings to the table, but I can just start with a few examples, and we can see from there. So it's a very simple function. It's a scalar function.
Back in the stage. Yeah.
Are we back in a yes?
Yeah.
So it's called prompt, and I can ask a question. Like I would ask ChatGPT a question, and I will get an answer. So that's the basic principle. But of course, it becomes interesting is when I put a variable content into that operator. So I can say like prompt, like give me a 5-word summary of this Hacker News comment, and I can concatenate the string, and I can say comment from Hacker News. And maybe just let it run on 100 rows.
I think it's text.
It's text. Okay, let's call it text. Nope. Prompt typo.
Prompt P.
Prompt P.
You see, we are dog fooding our own products with FixIt.
Yes,
this is real time. This is where you see it's not it's not fake, right?
Not polished.
So here, what is gonna happen? It's gonna take all the column text from the column text, and give you a summary?
Yep, that's indeed what is happening. I can, of course, also, I can do all kinds of things here, right? I translate to German. Translate to German. There we go again. There it is. Is it German? German translation. Yeah, of course, it is just like ChatGPT, so you have to put some effort into prompting it properly.
Right?
I
have before you show other things, I have one I want to show.
Okay.
Show,
right? Go ahead.
Which is this one. So you can be creative. So like for me, I'm taking again the same thing from Macronews, and I put ditch the nerd lingo and spill the beans. Give me a satirical snapshot in 100 characters. You can just to make it a bit more fun. And so so for example, here it's like the text here, done insurance, and here the summary is insurance where you pay to lose less, but somehow still ends up losing more. Welcome to the game. XHTML, where errors, where a party crasher and browser play hide and seek with your codes. Sometimes. So yeah, so you can be really creative while reading the news and have your own tone if you want to. I think that's kind of like the future also, where some information are giving it to you, and you kind of like fine tune. Today we can change background color, like dark theme, light theme, when reading information. Maybe tomorrow we can pick the style of the content. But what else can you do specifically with that? Do you have, I think, maybe other example in the documentation that we can go over?
Yeah, sure. Let me send you first. Let me send you a link to the documentation. But the thing that I'm particularly excited about is structured output. So with this thing, you can actually convert your text. So let's put the text here, so we see what we're actually talking about. Yeah. So you have all this like very long text here. Mehdi also showed it.
Yeah.
But now I say I'm interested in the technology that is mentioned here. For example, I want to know the sentiment, and I want to use that data to actually do some analytics on it. Right? But it's somehow hidden there in this text, and it's not easily extractable and accessible in my analytics pipeline. So what I can do, I can specify a struct output, and I can say, okay, there should be a summary, and it should be of type varchar. There should be let's say what's technologies, right? There should there should be a list of technologies, and it should be a list. So I want it to be a varchar array. And I want to give the model also a little bit more context to explain what it actually is. So I give it a description. I can provide a description for those different properties. Maybe summary is already pretty clear, so I don't need to, or maybe technologies is clear. I don't want to write both, so I say just technologies here, technologies, and I say like list of the mentioned technologies in the comment. So, and why not? Let's also add a sentiment here. And maybe because let's make it integer, because it's easier to analyze. And then we say sentiment sentiment should actually be like value in the range of 1 negative to 3 positive. So let's see, there's probably a typo.
Can you just zoom a little bit also here and just maybe
zoom a little bit in?
Yeah.
You want me to zoom in? Okay.
So just Command plus one time maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our FixIt really needs to learn our functions, huh? Looks like.
Yeah.
So.
So here you're gonna ask for structured output with a specific sentiment too. All right, so you're returning basically a column that contains a JSON with this. Okay.
Yep.
So this is really the equivalent, like, if you would have done that without SQL, probably spin up Python and, do a couple of functions. But here, like, we literally have just one function and pure SQL. And we can actually export this result as a JSON somewhere on top of that.
I can do the same. I can say create table. There's our struct output. The same IDB. S select text struct output. So now we create a table, and then we can see the result here. I can also select. Now I can unroll these columns also. I can say this.
Yeah.
So text, blah blah blah. From now you actually have individual columns of those properties.
Yeah. So that's pretty neat. So either so you have multiple ways basically to get the result and play around with a new table. I think, like, I've seen some use case there. I think the next thing would be to have kind of function maybe, or you could have it as a CTA, but like a common thing is to fix, for example, country code. I've seen that. So you have country code which is inconsistent, or you have country code that you need to display the country name, or the other way around. So it's like something usually I think the LLMs is doing pretty well. And so that's the kind of thing where I think that would be a great use case. We are already 50 minutes ahead. I would like to touch down a bit. Did we cover most, like, if we go back maybe on the docs, which kind of thing
we haven't talked about embeddings yet. They're very similar to, or the implementation is very similar to the prompt function. So I can just, if I want to, I can create an embedding of a text, and what it gives me is a OpenAI. What is it? The mini with text embedding 3 small with 512 dimensions, and they can be used for vector search. So we have a series of blog posts that talk about how to do vector search in DuckDB, how to even do hybrid search, so combining embedding-based vector similarity search with full text search to retrieve documents based on like natural language questions, which is super useful for building RAG pipelines. There's more about that in the embedding documentation. Actually, there's also an example of how to build a RAG pipeline fully within SQL. that's the last thing maybe about these two functions. So why having those on the SQL layer is interesting is because a lot of data pipelines, they just run on dbt, whatever it is. The main language is SQL there. So with this, like with having this functionality available on the SQL layer, it also expands the things you can do within those data pipelines.
No, that is really great. So it's also a great like way for people that are less comfortable with Python to get into LLM workflow, because everything is there. And again, someone asked if those features are only available in MotherDuck, like those reference function, yes. But you can call them from any client, right? You don't need to use the UI. So whatever client, or if you have a service, you're already running DuckDB on the server side, you can also call MotherDuck and with those functions. So all of those functions are available in the docs, and you can also go back to the example. I would like to close a bit with your thoughts on what's next. What do you think MotherDuck could do, or just also your take on just generally what do you think is missing today to help people with SQL and AI? What are the possibilities that the opportunities that you see?
I mean, as you saw, FixIt is not perfect. We're currently working on a new iteration of that. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to, because it also feels like it's a first step into a bigger plan to work in more of the AI features into the UI in a way that is genuinely useful. The other thing is smaller models. I really believe small models are going to become much more prevalent as we get inference costs will fall further, and also local inference, like using your local compute to run small language models or embedding models locally, and that fits super well to the MotherDuck architecture, in the sense that we want to actually leverage local compute, and whether that is for text to SQL or for the prompt function. I believe for text to SQL and FixIt and these things, we should really use the best models available, and they are unfortunately available in the cloud. And also, cloud is right now at this point, at this moment, also lower latency, even though it is a network core. Still, the inference on powerful GPU clusters somewhere in the cloud is so much faster than local inference for those big models. So I see that's happening in the cloud. But prompt function, embedding function, there are like 100 megabyte embedding models that can run locally that are super good. They're doing as good as OpenAI's text embeddings for small models. And you can even get to close to the throughput you get in the cloud with your local machine. With prompt, it's a bit further away, but this prompt function is a very powerful multi-purpose tool. But what if you only care about sentiment analysis? So they're really good, like embedding based or bird-based models.
Niching down the big model to smaller model for a specific use case. Someone said run a small language model as a Chrome extension.
Yeah, ideally. I mean, we always strive to support all our client surfaces, and one of them is the browser in WASM, and they're actually super interesting developments with web LLM, web GPU, where you can leverage local GPU compute from within the browser. And that's super exciting.
Yeah, I think that's something which is still in the works. The web GPU, I think was released last year, I think, as a standard in Chrome.
Yeah.
So it's still like time to tools to build on it. And for those who are not aware, Web GPU is basically a way, it's an interface between your browser and accessing your GPU directly. So you could run all the games, like fancy game, directly in the browser. But you could also do LLM and inference aside from that, because also GPU has other use case. Anyway, we are about time to close. So any thoughts for closing that you would like to give away to people? Till?
Oh, I was looking at the chat again. Sorry.
Yeah.
um,
There was a couple of
um,
question.
yeah, I mean, since we only have 4 minutes, I mean, in general, I would be interested in what kind of have people worked with language models and DuckDB in some shape or form outside of
Yeah.
MotherDuck. Are there any open source projects
Initiative.
we should be aware of, for example?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. If you if you have some thoughts, you have LLM workflow already existing, and you've played around with DuckDB and you're missing something, or you have an open source project that you see or that you own, please let us know. Our DMs are open. You can also join the Slack MotherDuck I just pointed. Quack and Code is happening every month, and next month is gonna be right, during Christmas time. So I'm gonna leave you, take times with your family, right? Opening your Christmas gift. But we'll be back right on the 2nd January, probably that week, for a fresh new episode. And in the meantime, you can check out all the contents of MotherDuck on motherduck.com, our YouTube channel. We have the documentation website where we have all the functions you've seen today. And yes, that's about it. And Till, I thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I wish you a great evening.
Same to you. See ya.